Greetings, fellow dungeon delvers, and welcome to Dorans and Dragons. My name is Justin, and I'm going to be your guide to bringing your favorite League of Legends champions to life in Dungeons and Dragons. Today we're building Karthus, the champion who is definitely worthwhile besides his ultimate. Karthus was a Noxian man, obsessed with death from a young age. When his sisters died of the plague, he set off with the Tallymen of Kindred, fascinated to learn how they handled the dead. He started as a gravedigger, then a pyre builder, then a corpse collector, and finally worked in the temple, tending to terminal patients till their final breath, interrogating them about what they witnessed just prior to dying. He learned of the Shadow Owls and realized this life wasn't enough for him. He wanted to experience undeath. He arrived on the Shadow Owls and was destroyed instantly by the Black Mist. His will to escape mortality was so strong that his body was placed in limbo between life and death. Now he is the emissary of the Shadow Owls, his wailing songs heralding the death of those creatures who hear it. Before we get started with the build, go ahead and like the video and hit that subscribe button so you're always notified when we release our builds. We'd like to take a minute and thank our awesome patrons over on Patreon who support us every month. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on and our death songs sung. If you like our videos and want to support the channel, come join us over on Patreon today. Just a quick reminder that our Discord is now public for anyone to join. Check out the link down below in my link tree. As a special treat, we'll be doing a Battle of the Builds on July 20th. Anyone who joins the Discord is welcome to join and compete. It'll be a series of 1v1 battles using the channel builds in a bracket-style tournament, with the winner earning the right to choose our next champion video outright. Alright, now let's get into it. Here's a quick preview of the build. For race, we're going with Reborn. Per usual, our stats are going to be determined using the standard array. For our stat priorities, we're going to max Wisdom and dump Strength. We do have a multi-class requirement of 13 in Wisdom and Charisma. Our leveling path is going to be levels 1 through 9 in Cleric. Then we'll grab 6 levels in Bard and dip back to Cleric for our final levels. Karthus' passive, Death Defied, is going to come from Death Ward. His Q, Lay Waste, will be Toll the Dead and Blessed Strikes. Our W, Wall of Pain, comes from Wall of Sand. His E, Defile, is going to be Spirit Guardians. And finally, we'll get our ultimate, Requiem, from Flame Strike. For race, we'll get Karthus' spooky undead form with the Reborn. For ability score increases, we'll take a +2 to our Wisdom and a +1 to our Charisma. Being a Reborn is going to give us 2 skill proficiencies. We'll go with Persuasion to convince others about the glory of undeath, and Investigation to truly understand the Shadow Owls and the power it holds. Deathless Nature is going to give you a bunch of tiny benefits, like advantage on saves against disease or being poisoned, and flat resistance to poison damage. You'll also have advantage on your death saves, and you don't need to eat, drink, or breathe. Magic can't put you to sleep, and you finish your long rests in 4 hours instead of 8, as long as you remain in an inactive, motionless state. Knowledge from a past life is the last feature you'll get here, which will let you roll a d6 when you make a skill check and add it. For background, we're going with Acolyte as a reflection of both his dedication to the temple and the Shadow Owls. We'll get skill proficiencies in Insight and Religion and the Shelter of the Faithful feature. This means anytime you find a bastion of the Shadow Owls, you'll find shelter and support. That could get a little clunky though, so be sure to work with your DM on that. For stats, we're going for the balance Karthus maintains between life and death with the standard array. Roll if you want to, but keep at least a 13 in Wisdom and Charisma for multiclassing purposes. Speaking of, we'll max our Wisdom first for the experience gained as a member of the temple and across his time in the Shadow Owls. We'll get our Constitution next for maintaining concentration on our spells and attempting to survive as we dip into the thick of things with our E. After that, we'll go with Charisma for our death ballads and multiclassing purposes. Then Dexterity for some help to our AC. Our Intelligence is going to be average and we'll dump Strength, since there isn't much meat on those bones. Anymore at least. The only equipment Karthus needs is a staff. That's not really worth throwing up an animation for, so we're just jumping right into levels of Cleric. Clerics have a d8 hit die and give us proficiency with our staff and the history and medicine skills. Receiving divine power to wield from some higher power is the name of the Cleric game, and will receive ours via the Black Mist and the Death Domain. Death Clerics get a fancy spell list, including Death Ward for a passive later on, and the Reaper feature. We'll gain any Necromancy cantrip of our choice, and whenever we use the Necromancy cantrip that normally only targets one creature, it can instead target 2, as long as they're within 5 feet of each other. We'll use Toll of the Dead for our Q, since Reaper will give it a little bit of AoE as well. You'll detonate a bomb at their feet, forcing a wisdom save on them, dealing 1d8 necrotic damage if they fail, unless they're not at full health, in which case that damage scales up to 1d12. We'll get the bonus damage for our isolated Q later with Blessed Strikes. And I know this is going to sound a little crazy, but we don't need our Channel Divinity for Karthus, so we're going to skip up to level 4. 4th level Clerics get the first ability score improvement of the build. As always, we lay out all of our choices here, so you can pick and choose for yourself along the way. At Cleric 4, we need to round off our Wisdom modifier, and we're in desperate need of a singing lesson or two. So we'll take the Skill Expert feat, giving us a +1 to our Wisdom, with skill proficiency and expertise and performance sprinkled on top. At Cleric 8, we'll pick up Warcaster to give ourselves advantage on our concentration checks, and the ability to cast spells for opportunity attacks instead of making awkward swings with our staff. At Bard 4, we'll max out our Wisdom with 2 points. Finally, at Cleric 12, we'll take the Tough feat, giving us 2 hit points per character level and making us into a nice thick Death Mage. Level 5 Clerics learn 3rd level spells. We'll pick up our E with one of the coolest spells in the game, Spirit Guardians. You summon spirits to fly around you for up to 10 minutes in a 15-foot aura. Flavor these to be the spirits of the dead you command, clawing at any enemies who enter the area. When a creature enters the space, their speed is halved and they have to make a Wisdom save or take 3d8 necrotic damage. This save and damage apply each time they start their turn in your aura too, so don't be afraid to get close and hold them tightly. Level 7 Clerics get 4th level spells. Death Ward is going to be a less than ideal version of our passive. In the original version of this build, we went Undead Warlock 14 for the Necrotic Husk and Spirit Projection features for this passive ability, but it cost us a great E and alt, so it just wasn't worth it. But Death Ward is an 8-hour long spell that'll prevent death from damage, dropping you to 1 hit point instead. Or if it's an effect that'll kill you, the ward negates that effect. Once either of these effects occur, the spell ends. 8th level Clerics get Blessed Strikes thanks to Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. This is going to let us deal an extra 1d8 radiant damage whenever we deal damage with a cantrip or weapon attack. Obviously, we'll be doing this with just our Toll the Dead, and I would recommend only doing it when you hit a single target for that isolated Q extra damage feel. Level 9 Clerics get 5th level spells. We'll grab our ultimate with the Flame Strike spell, which is going to call down a column of Divine Fire, or a Necrotic Blast if your DM is cool, and force a dex save on each creature in the area. They'll take 4d6 fire and 4d6 radiant damage if they fail the save, and half if they succeed. It's not quite a global ult, but it'll definitely bring the pain. Alrighty, now that we've gotten our passive, Q, E, and R, it's time to swap over some levels in Bard to grab our W. Bards also have a d8 hit die, and the only new proficiency we get here is Intimidation. We do get Bardic Inspiration though, which we can dole out as death songs to hype up our teammates and help them usher people to the great beyond. As a bonus action, you can give your ally a d6 to add to any ability check, save, or attack they make within 10 minutes. Level 3 Bards choose their Bard College, and we'll go study other people's spell lists with the College of Lore Bard. Cutting Words is going to let us weaponize our Bardic Inspiration to roll a Bardic Inspiration die to use as our reaction against a creature making an attack, check, or save. Meaning when they're about to make the save on one of our spells, we can call them a turd and distract them, hopefully making them fail the save. We'll also get 3 bonus skill proficiencies. We'll take Perception, Deception, and Arcana. Also, as a level 3 Bard, you get Expertise in 2 skills. We'll go with Religion for his knowledge of death and the Shadow Owls, and Deception because he's ultimately trying to trick people into submitting to death. 6th level Lore Bards get their magical secrets early, which is nice because who wants to waste 10 levels in a class for a 3rd level spell? This feature lets us borrow 2 spells from any spell list and use them as if we knew them the whole time. Call Guy Fieri because we're going to Flavor Town with our W, Wall of Sand. We're going to flavor it as a wall of spirits that you conjure. That's up to 30 feet long, 10 feet high, and 10 feet thick. It blocks line of sight, but people can move through it at a rate of 3 feet of movement for every 1 foot they move. Meaning to move 1 square through it, you'll have to burn 15 feet of your movement with the spirits holding you and attempting to block your movement. Alright, now that we've completed the build, let's see how we did. First, the good. Our E is going to be perfect with barely any flavoring needed. Just like in-game, if you walk too close to Karthus, you die. That's simple. On top of that, our Q is also awesome, especially with the isolated version available thanks to Blessed Strikes. Now the bad. Our ult not being global is depressing, but you should have seen what we would have had to do if we went Warlock instead. It would have been gross. And yeah, not to beat that horse to death, but geez, I wish we could have the Cleric spell list with the great later level features of the Undead Warlock. So what'd you think? I've included a link to the build via D&D Beyond in the description below, as well as Amazon links to the books used in this build. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Patrons really drive the content on our channel, choosing which champions make the poll, having significant weight in said poll, and what skins end up as our thumbnail. We plan on churning out one League Champion build every week. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll catch you on the Rift, or in the Forgotten Realms.